A mad scientist injected king cobra DNA into his assistant's body. Before long, strange changes began to occur in the assistant's body. Scales slowly grew on his skin, and his head began to transform into that of a snake. Just as he was about to turn completely into a snake, the assistant lost control and let out a fart. The serum inside his body evaporated completely as it was expelled. The human experiment was forced to stop midway. In the end, the assistant became a bizarre half-human, half-snake creature. Upon seeing the result, the scientist, Carl, was furious. This was completely different from the experimental outcome he had anticipated. So, without a second thought, he sold this incomplete experiment to a circus for $75. Once at the circus, this half-human, half-snake creature quickly became a sensation. He garnered massive attention from the audience. Although he retained some human consciousness, he had completely lost the ability to speak. Most spectators assumed he was simply someone wearing a costume, while others were convinced they were witnessing a genuine monster. But no one could have imagined that this creature had once been an ordinary person. The circus also reaped substantial profits thanks to this unique performer. Meanwhile, Carl hadn't stopped his research. Through a friend's introduction, he hired a new assistant. Soon, the new assistant, David, drove 50 miles into the deep mountains. This was the experimental base where Carl had been working for years. Upon arrival, David met Carl's daughter, Christina. Christina was responsible for caring for the various snakes at the base. David was immediately taken with the strikingly beautiful Christina. Later, Carl gave David a tour of the entire laboratory and its research findings. The room was filled with numerous bizarre creatures bred through hybridization. Despite being there for the first time, David felt no fear. Instead, he was filled with curiosity about everything before him. He had always had a penchant for obscure and unusual research, which was precisely why he had chosen to work at this laboratory. Carl explained to David that his research centered on snakes. The facility housed a wide variety of venomous snakes. He had been attempting to transplant snake genes into other organisms to observe the resulting changes in their physiology. At the same time, he warned David to be extremely careful while working here. Any of the venomous snakes here could be life-threatening. After speaking, he picked up a black mamba and demonstrated how to extract venom from the snake's body. Carl told David that if bitten by the snake, a person would die within an hour. The symptoms of the poisoning closely resemble a heart attack, and most victims do not survive long enough to receive antivenom. For safety reasons, Carl suggested injecting David with a specially formulated snake venom antibody. Naive David didn't suspect a thing, and immediately agreed to the proposal. But he didn't know that the liquid in the syringe wasn't an antibody at all, but rather the first-stage king cobra gene serum. David even mistakenly believed Carl was genuinely looking out for him, and was deeply moved, completely unaware that he had already become a test subject in an experiment. Later, Carl took David to see the mongoose, the snake's natural predator. Upon spotting a snake, the mongoose would immediately emit a rapid, shrill cry. Even the naturally ferocious king cobra would appear deeply intimidated by it. After dinner, David suddenly felt a heavy-headedness and physical discomfort. Carl deliberately fabricated an explanation, telling David this was a normal reaction to the anti-venom injection. He also mentioned that a fever might develop during the night, but assured him that a good night's sleep would restore him to normal. Before long, David fell into a deep sleep. In his dreams, he saw all sorts of bizarre visions. When David finally woke up, he realized he had been unconscious for a full 2 weeks. However, just as David was getting up to wash up, he suddenly noticed some changes in his body. His skin began to peel, and his face became somewhat flattened. So David, panicked, went to find Carl. Carl helped him peel the skin off his body, and reassured him that everyone reacts differently to the antibodies. Shedding was an extremely normal phenomenon, and the renewed skin could resist snake venom. In fact, Carl had altered the experimental method. He chose to administer small doses to David multiple times. As a result, David's reaction wasn't severe. Not only did he fail to notice anything unusual, but he even foolishly thanked Carl. Before long, Carl administered a second dose of the serum to David. Just then, the meerkat nearby suddenly let out a strange cry at David. David didn't pay it any mind, but afterward, he often found himself staring blankly at snakes, as if he felt an unusual sense of familiarity whenever he saw them. To better observe the changes in David's body, Carl kept him at his own home this time, and had Christina take care of his daily needs. As a result, his relationship with Christina grew closer and closer. Soon, David took the initiative to confess his feelings to Christina, and the two naturally fell in love. One day, they heard that the town's circus was a huge hit. So out of curiosity, they went to check it out. But the circus owner said there would be no circus performance today. Instead, they were opening the doors for the most popular act, the snake charmer. Christina already had a strong aversion to snakes because of her father, and she was adamant about not wasting money to go inside. But David's interest was instantly piqued at the mention of snakes, so he decisively spent $2.50 and went into the performance arena alone.